Good morning and welcome to today's webinar on Green Mealies production, proudly supported by Seedco and ZFC. My name is Rollins, your host, and I am with Agribusiness Media. So today we are focusing on variety selection, crude agronomic practices, soil health, and crop protection. And these are the key aspects that determine whether your green mealies will thrive or struggle. Our expert speakers will share practical insights and guide us and help us to maximize yield and profitability. So our first speaker is Dzidzai Caleb Monutu from the ZFC. Dzidzai will cover soil health and crop protection, which are crucial for maximizing yield. And he will guide us through the best practices for soil health and effective pest and disease management. Dzidzai, please go for it.
It has been highlighted by Rollins. I am Caleb Monutu from ZFC Limited. I'm a data agronomist there. So what we basically do at ZFC is that we specialize in fertilizers and agrochemicals, but we also sell seed. So maybe as a way of introduction, we all know that green mealies, they are quite a good crop, a lucrative one that can be grown all year round. This means that the farmer simply has got to do the proper timing, particularly when you're looking into frost, because yes, green mealies can be damaged by frost. So it's important to make sure that you do your timings well. But yes, you can safely grow your green meal as well, and you should be able to get some good returns, depending on the timing or the window which you would have sold it. But I can assure you that if you plant your green mealies right now, you are almost certain to get some good returns, because you know that much of the green mealies is consumed during the winter period. So people would want to keep themselves warm, and they would prefer to buy a number of dozens to consume. So the good thing is that green mealies is well adapted. It can be grown in a number of soils. So whatever soil type that you've got at ZFC Limited, we can customize that soil so that it can suitably grow. You can suitably grow that particular crop. So be it your sands or your clays or your looms, feel free to engage us, and we'll be able to guide you through the appropriate products that you can use to grow your crop. So for the pH range, it's also quite adaptable, widely adaptable. You can grow from a pH of 5 to about 6.5. Obviously, for you to be able to know your pH range, you've got to have analyzed your soils, and we do that as ZFC Limited. And once we have then analyzed to understand your pH range or the soil nutrient status, we then come in with the appropriate recommendations for you. So start off, before we plant our seed, I would want farmers to appreciate this product called Apron Star. Apron Star is a super product which I like myself because it has got 3 active ingredients which are quite good for crop management. That is your thiamethoxam, difenoconazole, and metalaxyl. What does Apron Star do? Basically, it is a seed dresser, and by seed dresser I mean that it helps to protect the crop against early season pests and diseases. And we know that for most of the maize or the green mealies, we have a challenge to do with maize streak virus. So you simply have to get 7 sachets of your Apron Star and dress your seed. By that, I simply mean that you dissolve each Apron Star sachet is a 10-gram one. So you dissolve it in water, and then you coat your seed. So 7 sachets will do you 25 kgs of seed. We should be able to cover 1 hectare, and you would have gotten rid of a number of challenges, is particularly with your aphids, your thrips, your potential root rots, and the notorious maize streak virus. So this one is a must here, farmers, if you are going to be seriously considering green mealie production. So I'll then look into the common insect pests that farmers usually encounter during production of your maize. It's for diseases, it's very rare to get some diseases. Yes, they are encountered here and there, but with having applied Apron Star, you are almost guaranteed that you have minimal diseases. If there's going to be anything, if you're going to maybe face gray leaf spot, then you are going to be considering difenoconazole. Just is a preventive measure, but you don't really require many fungicides to control diseases in maize. It is a good crop that can help you save on your fungicidal costs. But now for the insect pest management, if you are going to be facing some cutworms in your crop, we recommend that you apply your lambda cyhalothrin or even your virulence. Then these days we've got the notorious 4-armyworm. I'm pretty sure that most of us have had concerns across the country. It is official that it has ravaged several hectares across 6 provinces and I think over 22 districts, and it's even spreading far and wide. Just last week, we were hearing that the African armyworm was also reported in Limpopo. So it's spreading in most of the southern countries. So let's be vigilant, farmers. Let's scout our fields regularly to see if there's any damage that is being caused by these ravaging pests. So for the 4-armyworm control, we recommend that you apply your Carbaryl 8540 powder, but you can also use those products that are used to control the 4-armyworm. So in this case, you are going to be using your ZFC indoxacarb. You also use your Spike Extra, a combination of your emamectin benzoate and acetamiprid. Then you can also use your clofenapar, your Ampligo, or your belt. But you'd also realize that towards the maturity of your crop, you may then have some problems with termites. In this case, we recommend that you apply your chlorpyrifos 48 EC. It's a good product that you can then use, but it's important also to observe the pre-harvest intervals, since we are also talking about green mealies. So you do not want to give or you do not want to sell into the market produce that is affected by green mealies. I mean, that is affected by, that has got residual chemicals. So it's important to observe the pre-harvest interval of your chlorpyrifos. Basically, within 14 days, you should be okay. So I just decided to elaborate on the 4-armyworm, and as we can see, the far right picture, that one, it's a snapshot from the video that was recently circulating, where the African armyworm was spotted in weather. It had caused significant damage. So you can see by the numbers that it is quite a problematic pest, and we need to be vigilant in terms of scouting. Once you have seen this pest, it is important to notify your address offices, that is the government. It's important to notify them because they've got chemicals in place, which are then issued freely to farmers to be able to contain this pest. It is a pest of economic importance. It poses a threat to the national food security. It causes losses to the farmer. So it's important to report it. You get the chemicals, but if you have them, it's important just to come in and spray, just as I've highlighted. That is the damage that is caused by on the middle picture or the center picture. That is how it causes damage. It then does some lashes on the leaves, and sometimes you eventually it consumes all the leaves, and there will be nothing left. So that is an illustration of how the 4-armyworm damages. 4-armyworm usually, yes, it causes some pores on the leaf surfaces, and also at the funnel of your crop, leaving some frac, as you can see on the right picture. It causes it leaves some fracs at the center of the funnel. And in terms of identification, I'm sure we all know that the 4-armyworm has got an indicated Y right at the head, and the numbers for the 4-armyworm in terms of population are a bit lower than the African armyworm, and usually you also see some egg masses on leaf surfaces when it comes to your 4-armyworm. So these are the different farmers that we need to take note of, particularly to do with the numbers and also to do with the damage signs. However, both insects are of economic importance. We really need to take care of them before they cause meaningful damage to our crop. So moving on to nutrient management for the green mealies, obviously we've got certain principles that we have got to adhere to. The first one I've highlighted is to do with your soil analysis, so that we get to understand the levels of each individual nutrient. If there is a shortage or a deficit of one element, it may then affect the performance of the overall of the other elements, and ultimately your yield or the crop performance. So once you have understood the dynamics that are involved in nutrient management, we can then customize and optimize the soil and the supply and delivery of nutrients to the crop, such that you then get the best out of that particular crop. In this case, in green mealies, we are talking about dozens. About dozens, and we know that maybe for our plant population, we are looking at about maybe 35,000 to 44,000 plants per hectare. Whereas it comes to the usual maize crop, which you then dry, we are looking at a plant population of around 50,000 plants per hectare. So the reason why we have a lower plant population with your green mealies is because we want to allow the crops to develop quite well. Because if you've got a smaller crop, you will not be able to sell well. You rather sell more of the crops at a lower value. So once you've got bigger crops, you then tend to get better returns. So for you to be able to achieve the bigger crops, you need to have optimally planted your crop. That's why the population is lower, such that you minimize competition amongst the maize crops, the maize crop itself, and it then tends to develop bigger crops. So obviously, the third one is to do with your maize, with the fertilizer placement, which is important. Basal fertilizers should be incorporated in the root zone of your crop, because the nutrient uptake has got to happen during that time. Once your seeds develop into the younger seedlings. So it's important for the farmer to then understand that your basal fertilizers have got to be applied within the soil profile, where maybe that is around 15 to 20 centimeters depth. As you place them, maybe then the seed comes then a bit more on the top. So it really depends on the method that you are using to apply your fertilizer, whether you're going to be using a planter, or if you're going to be using a bend application, or any other mechanical means that you can employ. But for the farmer to be able to understand the best way to manage their nutrients, certainly we want to look at the crop removal rates. By this, we are saying, for you to be able to build up a plant of maize, what is required? How many kgs per ton of grain for nitrogen would you require? How many kgs per ton of maize straw or maize stover would you then require? So let me highlight this to you, farmers. For you to be able to build up your yield, you need to understand that certain fundamentals have got to be satisfied. That is number one. The soil colors themselves, they've got to be saturated so that they release the nutrients in the soil solution. That is when your crop will be able to take up those nutrients. Once they are taken up, we then need to make sure that per ton we're going to be supplying 15.8 kgs of nitrogen, 7 kgs of phosphorus, P2O5, 4.6 of K2O, and so forth. So we then add these figures together to say if we're going to be targeting 5 tons, we're going to be targeting 8, 10 tons, how much quantities of these nutrients are we going to be applying, and under what pH conditions? Because sometimes nutrient uptake is then affected by the soil pH. So if you do not have, if you haven't corrected your soil pH to the best you can, then rest assured your crop will not be able to mine those nutrients to effectively utilize them to get to the desired yield. So this is what we then make use of for us to be able to customize a certain product to you, dear farmers. This is our strength as ZFC Limited. We can actually customize a product for you to be able to meet whatever nutrient requirements that you desire. It is not just something that we do willy-nilly. These are scientific calculations that we do, which are really important for you to understand, and we then give you the actual recommendations. So for the basal fertilizers, application rates range from 200 to 400 kgs per hectare, depending on the product that is being used. If you're going to be using a maize fet, etc., it's a low analysis fertilizer, so you tend to use more. If you're going to be using your double D, the high analysis product, or the high D, or even the cereal blend 62323, you then use lower rates because these are high analysis fertilizers. So there is that one called ZFC said maize fet 7147 plus zinc. You also have your double D 142014 plus zinc. We recommend that you use these products that contain zinc in predominantly your sandy soils, because what we have realized from studies conducted is that most of our sandy soils in Zimbabwe, they lack zinc. Therefore, it has got to be incorporated so that we satisfy all the nutrient requirements. We want to balance out all the nutrients so that the shortage of one nutrient does not affect or upset the balance of the other nutrients. So this is how we then optimize the performance of your crop. Once you have applied a zincated product, then you are almost assured that you are also going to get some good yields. But certainly it goes hand in glove with the other nutrients. So it's a nutrient or case by case basis where we manage these nutrients. For the top dressing fertilizers, we recommend that you use your ammonium nitrate. You can also use your urea and your calcium ammonium nitrate. And again, we are looking at an application rate of about 350 to 500 kgs per hectare, depending on the product used, depending on the nutrient management style that the farmer is going to use. So these particular calculations are then issued to you by the ZFC agronomist, because certainly these vary from one farmer. But let me also highlight to you farmers that we have got a super deal that we've got currently running, where we are saying you can get your ZFC foliar 15. Foliar 15 is basically a product that you use in the majority of your crops to say in the majority of your crops to supply a number of trace elements on top of the usual NPK that it has. It has the number of trace elements. It has your zinc, your copper, manganese, molybdenum, iron, etc. So these are trace elements that are required kuitira kuti crop yedu iite zvakanaka. Zvidavado zvinoita kuti crop ikwanise kuperforma zvakanaka. We may undermine the importance of these trace elements, but they are quite key. One would say, well, I've supplied my NPK through the basal fertilizer. Yes, it's good, but you may also require an additional, depending again on the nutrient management style that you have employed. So once you test the use of this product, the foliar 15, you'll be amazed. So right now, we are a foliar 15 attendant. What we are saying here is that you simply bring in your clean container of your empty container, what we are saying is that you are offering you foliar 15 at a much lower price when you bring your own container. So we've got a pump station for the foliar 15. You simply bring your clean container and you get an amazing discount of $2.50. And even if you buy huge volumes, we can even get it down to $2 for you, depending on the quantities that you have bought. So instead of getting a cost for a container that you're probably not going to use, you better recycle the ones that you've got. Once you come in to buy whatever products of choice that you want from ZFC Limited, you then get your bulk foliar 15 from ZFC Limited Coventry Road, and you'll be amazed by the discounts that come along. Yet you'll be satisfying your crop with those trace elements at a very minimal cost. So moving on to chemical weed management, ladies and gentlemen, certain important factors that we've got to take note of for us to say a herbicide is now working optimally. Number one, obviously, is to read and understand the label. It's important for the farmer to read and understand what the label contains, how you're going to be applying the product, etc. Then the timing, whether your product is going to be a pre-emergence or a post-emergence herbicide. Yeah, whether it's going to be also in terms of selectivity, whether it is going to be a contact herbicide, a systemic herbicide, the weeds that it targets, etc. Then it's important for the farmer to understand that moisture plays a critical role in the distribution of herbicide molecules in the soil. Kana tichida kuti masora afe hama dzangu ngatispray paine moisture, it plays a very critical role in the herbicide efficacy. Then, of course, to do with calibration, we are looking at the nozzles, the pressure that you're going to be using, the swath, the quality of the water, etc. These have got to be checked once before the farmer does anything or before they come in with the herbicide application. So we've got a product called Maricho. It's both a pre-emergence herbicide and an early post-emergence herbicide that targets your broadleaf weeds and your chamfer grass as well as some annual grasses. Please take note, do not apply Maricho when the weeds are overgrown. We do not want, in any case, any herbicide should not be applied when the weeds are overgrown. Let us apply when the weeds are at 5-leaf stage and below. This is when you get the best control of your weeds. That's why I was saying your timing is very critical when you apply these herbicides. And once you apply them at the prescribed rates, I can assure you of good results and you'll be amazed. Then we've got another one, a pre-emergency herbicide called Ambush. Basically, it's made up of your flumethylam and S-metolachlor. This product is a pre-emergency herbicide that controls broadleaf weeds and annual and perennial grasses. This one is only a pre and not an early post. And the good news is that it's widely adaptable. You can use it in your sugar beans, your soya beans, and even in your groundnuts on top of your maize. So when you consider your green mealies, if you are having some rotation issues, if you want a product that can rotate with most of your horticultural crops, we recommend that you use Ambush. But if you're going to be doing monocropping, we recommend that you can also use your Maricho, because it also has a longer residual effect. Now, there is a critical factor that happens for most of these herbicides, particularly to do with your Ambush. Your application rate is determined by the soil texture. So if you're going to be using your sands, you use the lower limit of 0.7 liters per hectare, that is 700 mils. If you're going to be having your sandy clays, etc., that with clay content above 40%, you are going to be using 1.5 to 1.7 liters per hectare. Then for the post-emergency herbicides, we've got your bentazone, which you should apply in a minimum volume of 300 liters of water. Why we say so? It's because bentazone is a contact herbicide. So thorough coverage of the targeted weeds is important so that you've got a good distribution of the herbicide molecules onto the emerging broadleaf weeds, and you should be able to get good control. Then, of course, your nicosaffron and halosaffron, they target your chamfer grass and your nutsedge, and the stellar star is also widely adaptable in terms of the number of weeds which it controls. So farmers, important for us to understand what then comes along with these herbicides. Particularly to say with you can see that with your nicosaffron and your halosaffron, these are wettable dry granules or wettable granules. What it means is that most of these products, your powders and your granules, you've got to add a wetter. The reason we apply a wetter is because we want to get the herbicide molecules to stick onto the leaf surfaces of your weeds. We all know that your chamfer grass is hairy, so some of the herbicide molecules may not be able then to get onto the actual leaf surface. Particular weed seeds, weed that is growing, and we are also looking at your for halosaffron. When you apply it, the reason we add the wetter is because the leaf surfaces of your nutsedge or pende, they are waxy and they are shiny, so the chemical tends to run off. So the wetter then tends to help you to stick the herbicide molecules there, and you should be able to get some good efficacy once you've applied it. But for stellar star, you will not need a wetter because it is on its own. It has an inbuilt wetter and does not require any additional. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for your time. That is basically our product range, which you can pursue if you require. I hand over the time back to Rollins for the next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you, Zizai, for those practical tips on soil health and crop protection. And it is clear that a balanced approach to soil management makes all the difference in green mealies production. Okay, so let's move to our next speaker, who is Dio Pote from Seedco. And Dio will cover variety selection and good agronomic practices. And these are essential factors for achieving high quality green mealies. And as they say, the seed you choose today determines the harvest you will enjoy tomorrow. With that in mind, let's welcome Dio Pote.
Good morning, farmers. Thank you, Rollins. Thank you, Tizai, for an amazing moment of learning. We learn a lot about nutrition and chemicals that are used in our production of green mealies. This is the moment whereby, as farmers, we need to see that we grow our green mealies and make more money. This money will be used for several aspects at the farm. That is to do with greasing some of the issues around the farm. It could be some wages, it could be some technical issues that needs some quick money from green mealies. So it's ideal for farmers to engage into green mealies, taking advantage of the rains so that you can establish with these rains, and maybe if you would want supplementary irrigation, you get it later. So my name is Dio Pote. I'm the head of agronomy for Seedco Zimbabwe. Today, our plan is to discuss and have a conversation around production of green mealies. So essentially, what we want to discuss is that when you're selecting a variety, select a variety that is very attractive to the farmer. Select a variety that makes waves in the market. Yes, these varieties are bred differently, but some are sweeter than others. Some produce a very attractive cobs than others because of their use. The use of maize cobs are different, maize varieties. So you'd see, due to issues to do with preferability of farmers, you'd see that there are some varieties which are more sweeter than others. There are some varieties who produce good kernels, good stature of the cobs. So it's to do with genetics. So the variety selection is very key when you're selecting a variety. So in green mealie production, you see that the weather is quite favorable right now as we speak. It's raining and the heat is still there. You see some days there are huge amounts of heat whereby the temperature is very high. So this will allow quick germination of the seed. And when the germination happens, that means we are well set. What it means now, we have to make sure that we have to take good care of what we have, because usually green meal is established at relatively lower populations as compared to commercial maize. So we have to make sure that we don't lose any single plant, because losing any single plant is eating on our cobs, the number of cobs that we intend to do. So we have to make sure that our soil is well prepared. A good fine tooth needs to be prepared. If you are someone who goes for conservation farming, make sure that all your practices are in line. Why do we have to get into green mealie production? There's high investment. The return on investment is relatively high if you do it correctly. So it enhances cash flows at the farms. It increases the income streams at the farm, and it allows double cropping. Someone could have planted and have planted, say, tobacco. Right now, that's the moment whereby you can establish your green mealies from the lands that you have removed your tobacco. Then it's an opportunity to allow you to even to have your winter cropping. Some can produce their green mealies right now and have their winter cropping later. They can still deal around it, and it creates more employment. So there are several aspects that determine which variety you need to grow, and there are several aspects which determine what the outcomes of the cobs, the outcomes of the green mealie cobs. So what it means is that you have to put the right agronomic practices in the right seed. I'm sure the presenter managed to give us good snippets and good advice around herbicides and around chemicals. So most of the areas that are there have been discussed before, and I'm sure I'll be touching them here and there as part of a good agronomic practices. But I'm quite happy that they were once discussed. So for a farmer who really wants to make more money, you have to make sure that your NPK has to be proper. Your NPK levels have to be proper. Your soil has to be tested. so that you see what needs to be done in the soil before you engage. There's so much to do with the crops. The crops need more food from the soil. That is to do with the nitrogen, phosphorus, and your potassium. So this can only be done through players like ZFC. ZFC, I'm sure they can do pH testing. They can do their nutritional analysis of your soil so that you correct this. The end goal is to produce a crop that is very attractive. You can only do that by following the fertilizer and nutritional program that is given by our fertilizer companies. So basically, soil sampling is very critical and soil conditioning is very critical as well. But in this regard, we assume that liming was done and soil sampling was done during the previous season. Because considering that we are now in the rain season, we cannot be doing we cannot be doing soil sampling right now. The results will be a bit distorted. We use the results of the previous season and see how best we can align and see how best we can give the next to proper nutritional conditions. In terms of land preparation, we advise farmers. There are farmers who will be using ox-drawn plow, and some they'll be using machine plowing. So the issue is you have to have a very good soil structure, a very good fine tilt, a good seed soil contact when you're doing green mealie production. We are highly advise farmers to have the seed needs to be placed where it can fully develop their roots and fully develop their shoots without having hurdles. So it is very critical for farmers to do good land preparation. For in terms of fertilizer management, this is just a general guideline. I'm sure it's an area which has been discussed, but we'll just walk through it, whereby we indicate to farmers that to those who haven't done their soil analysis or who have been following up with the nutritional requirements as indicated by the fertilizer companies who are experts in the nutrition, we kindly ask farmers to be using some basic guideline whereby they can use at least 300 to 400 kgs of maize blend and 300 to 400 kgs of top dressing fertilizer. So you need to have the right seed and you need to have the right amount of fertilizer in the right rate, right time, and the right place. So you need to know when to place the fertilizer, how to place the fertilizer. These are very critical for crop development of our green mealie crop. So there are several varieties that we are going to be discussing pertaining the production of green mealies. So in terms of weed management, I'm sure no one really wants a crop that is small because it's unattractive. So this can only happen if you don't do your weed management. So it's very key to do your weed management. Say from your weed management should start with the land preparation. As you proceed, let the green mealie crop germinate in a space where there are no weeds. Let the green mealie, so that there will be no competition for pests, there's no competition for water, resources, and nutrition. So it is very imperative for a farmer who is targeting to do green mealie to have a weed-free environment so that these crops will be able to grow without having any impediment, without having any competition. So there are various weeds that are there, various chemicals that we use, even say chemicals that we've been using in our commercial cropping. They are the same chemicals that we are using here in our green mealie. There's no significant difference between the commercial crop and the green mealie crop, because all they are what? They are maize crops. What is going to be different is that when they reach physiological maturity, they reach physiological maturity on different times. So for farmers, it's very key to make sure that you align very well with the details of weed management. Get guidance from experts, there are agronomists all over, they are there to assist. Whenever you feel there are some weeds that you don't understand, it's very important to reach out to an agronomist so that you don't eat on the cob. What happens with cobs is that the cob size determination happens at what we call the vegetative stage 4. V4, in layman terms, that's the knee height. So that's whereby critical operations happen, the cell differentiation, cell integration, cell division. So that is the stage whereby cob size determination happens. So if you leave your crop with weeds I trust and I know the crops are going to be affected. They are going to be less attractive. This will affect the end goal when you want to go to the market. That's when you see someone will be selling their dozen at a very good price, and yet you can't price them high because they are relatively unattractive. When establishing your green mealie, take note that there are some soil pests that are very, very detrimental to the seed, which include the cutworm and the white grubs. These are soil-borne pests. So if your area is prone to the attack of these, make sure you spray chemicals like propylphos so that you eliminate the effect done by these. Then we have got a pest called the stalk borer. It happened that when your green meal is growing at the early vegetative stage towards the reproductive stage, stalk borers take chance and feed on our crop. So it is ideal to use chemicals that are highly recommended by our chemical producers. And 4-MMM is a pest of economic importance. No one really wants a cob that is devoured by 4-armyworm. It's best and it's very attractive to have a 4-armyworm damage-free cob. This will sell more to our customers because the customer is the king. That's our end goal. We need to make sure that the customer is happy. So whatever that we're doing, let's control all these pests such that they don't eat onto our final yield. The final yield, that are the cobs that we intend to have. On our identification, we must know how the 4-MMM appear. We must know how they appear. We must know when to do our sprays. So we kindly advise farmers to do their routine sprays of 4-MMM. There are several varieties from Seedco that we want to talk about, which are used for green mealie. You'd see that there is SC608, which is our yellow variety. We have got a code name for yellow variety, which is called Firecracker. It's a medium maturing variety which produces yellow cobs. It's in terms of commercial growing, it produces up to 13 tons per hectare, but in terms of yields, it produces the best uniform and consistent yields under good management. So the optimum populations we encourage farmers to use is between 40,000 to 44,000 plants per hectare. Yes, as you go up there towards 48,000, 50,000, there's gonna be a net effect of a reduced cob size due to the fact that you have increased your population. So with an optimum population, you are guaranteed to have very good sellable cobs that will shock the market. We have got varieties like SC659 from Seedco. It's a medium maturing variety which takes around 125 days, 125 to 130 days, depending with where they are grown for green mealies. For green mealie, because green mealie, we are going to harvest them earlier, other than we don't wait for the crop to develop a black iron on the cob. What we are planning to do is we are going to have them at the milk dough stage, at hard milk dough stage, whereby they will be very attractive and very edible to our customers. Another variety of interest is, there's SC555 takes less maturing days to reach physiological maturity, yet it produces very huge cobs, which are attractive as well, which can be more or less like cobs we see on 659, 727, or 719, and other new varieties that include SC657 and SC661. So from Seedco, there are several varieties that can make your dream come true. What it means is that as a farmer, you have to make sure that you select the right variety, you have your good land preparation, you have the right population. So in this case, what we are indicating is that a farmer who's producing green mealie must say you're having your interrow spacing of around 75 centimeters and 75 from one row to the other row. Your population should be up, your one plant to the other plant should be from 27 centimeters going to 32 centimeters, depending with the irrigation infrastructure that you have. This you're guaranteed that you're going to have good sellable cobs from from the field. So we cannot go beyond anything without talking about money. Why are we growing green mealies? Yes, we've put an investment on seed, we've put an investment on fertilizer, but what is it that we're going to get? So for every dollar invested, you're guaranteed to get at least $2 under good management practices. For the cost of production is between 800 to 900 dollars per hectare, but that was our initial cost of production. But with the current trends, we have noticed that with irrigation and slight changes in chemicals and fertilizers, the cost is now ranging between 1,000 to 1,300, depending with how you get to use your fertilizers. Some who are using fertilizers which undergo through some nutritional analysis from chemical companies, they get their fertilizers tailor-made for their specific fields so that they can plummet their nutritional requirements or even the amount of bit nitrogen they require in a certain block. So for a general guideline, 1,300 will suffice for one to establish your green mealie crop. A dozen, several places, the lowest a dozen can fetch could be around $20, and you'd see some are even going to get around $2, depending with where you are and depending with the market that you are targeting. So in essence, a farmer is able to get close to 5,000 per hectare or even more with green mealies. Especially under high management, you can go beyond 5,000 per hectare. So it's time for farmers to do green mealie production. You can stagger your plantings. One can say, this block I can grow SC555, this other block you can grow in SC657. Then if you have got 3 blocks, then you can grow 727. So that you can satisfy your market for a full month span. And or if you are having a 1 hectare, you can demarcate your land in a way that when you're coming from this block, you go to the next block and proceed to the next block. So staggering will assist your selling window period, and there will be more profits you are going to realize, and you're going to create more money out of it. So there are some pictures of some farmers who have done so well. You see, this is one of the farmer who has done SC555, and you can see the cobs, they are quite huge. They can only come when you do good agronomic practices. Because in terms of genetics, we are way ahead. Our genetics are executive genetics. They can give you the best of crops around. So we highly advise farmers to grow green mealies. There are several markets they can send their green mealies, say to Mbarem Sika market. There are several markets, be it in Blueyo, in Gweru. People really need green mealies, because by the time these mealies are ripe, most of our summer crops will be dry. So it's a very good opportunity to the farmer to create more income and more cash flow as the season progresses. Thank you very much.
All right. Many thanks, Dio, for such a wonderful presentation and for helping farmers on how they can choose the right variety as well as apply the good agronomic practices. And as we have seen, the right foundation sets the stage for a successful crop. So Dio, I have some questions here that farmers have been sending whilst you were presenting. How much seed do we require for a hectare of maize?
Okay, thank you very much. For a hectare of maize, you require 125 kg of seed. It's enough. That depends with the variety that you have selected. You'd see some varieties are pegged in kernels. So 150,000 kernels peck will suffice. What it then means is that you are going to plant it all. We're going to have an assumption of some germination losses and some losses that we can incur, because we're planting at 50,000 plants per hectare. But our final target is ranging from 40,000 to 44,000 plants per hectare. So somewhere will be within the range with that. So for varieties like SC555, SC657, 125 kg will suffice, because it is with enough kernels. And even if you can still have more that you can spare for the coming season, you can just plant whatever that you require to plant to use that align very well with your production plan.
All right, thanks. Then in other crops, spacing affects the size. Say for onions, spacing affects the bulb size. Is it the same for maize? This is Tinotenda, a farmer asking.
Thank you, Tinotenda. That's a very pertinent question. Yes, spacing really affect the size. So if you plant it at high plant populations, trust me, you are guaranteed to get very small crops. They will be very small. They will not be very, very big as compared to planting it's good spacing that is indicated. In essence, what we are saying is that your spacing has to increase more so that you allow the maize plant to grow uninterrupted and having more chance to expand itself so that there will be full expression of the genetic potential. This will guarantee you good crops, good sizable crops, which are very attractive and needed by the market. So it's easy for you to fetch money with that.
This one says, some say green mealies taste differ by variety. How true is this? I think you covered this. Maybe they missed that when you were presenting.
Yeah, I indicated. There's no better test than test of an AC727. Trust me. AC727 in terms of ranking, it's where I above for white maize. Of course, the yellow maize take the first precedence, but then 727 is for the white maize. It's amazing. The taste is great. Even it's being cooked 10, 20 meters away. You can hear the smell that something is going on there.
Thanks. I think you actually covered the next question, which was, can I plant 727 for green mealies? So that's answered. The next question is an interesting one. It's to do with crop breeding. They're saying, is it possible to make seed varieties that are resistant to armyworm?
Yeah, there's some inroads that's happening right now as you speak in several breeding research units whereby they're trying to come up with some maize varieties that are resistant to fall armyworm. So it's just work in progress from the breeding units. It's work in progress. Yeah. You know, breeding is something that takes more years other than what we think at times. It's not something that happens over a year or two. It takes more years, up to even 8 years, depending with the breeding methods that are being used, especially with our conventional breeding that happens here in Zimbabwe.
When planting 1 hectare of green mealies 727, plant population, is the plant population 50,000, or we just space out more, thus reducing plant population? I think they may have to rephrase. I don't know if you got that.
Okay, you know what? If I've got it correctly, the farmer is asking if I can plant using the 50,000 pack and see if he or she can get the population that we are discussing. So in essence, what it means, the 50,000 pack is actually is more kernels than what you require. So it simply means that you are likely going to reserve something maybe for use for later use, considering that our exact amount of population that we require is around 40 to 44,000 plants per hectare. So it has got even more 10,000 kernels. It can even grow you even half a hectare. So you can even plant 1.5 hectares for your green mealie with that pack. So what it means is that you need to call Zizai for fertilizers, seed your spray, you're covered. You can plant with our seed because the seed already allows you to grow beyond 1 hectare.
All right. Thanks, Dio, for taking that one. Then the following one is for Zizai. It says, what are the stages of controlling armyworm from the day I notice it?
Like I indicated, that we do not spray chemicals willy-nilly. You need to make sure that you scout and then determine the economic threshold level or the economic injury level. This is when I indicated that you've got to come in to spray when you've got maybe about 25% of your crop. When you see damage signs on about 25% of your crop, that is then when you say, let me come in with a chemical control method. So the key thing is for the farmer to do scouting, regular scouting, and positive identification of a particular insect pest. In this case, for armyworm, they need to look for the egg masses on the leaf surfaces. They need to look for the damage signs on the leaves and also on the funnels.
All right, thanks, Zizai. Then this is a farmer in Chipinge who says, we are receiving a lot of rain in Chipinge, so we are having challenges in terms of fertilizer application. When we are trying to apply, there will be a lot of water in the fields. So how do we go about it? Do we skip or kindly advise?
Okay, so you do not skip the application of fertilizers. If you then, some of our farmers, they do applications for fertilizers using your vehicle spreaders, depending on the scale of operation. But you may then consider to split apply your fertilizer so that you minimize on the rate of leaching that might happen because of the excessive rains. The current overcast and humid conditions across the country, where we've got lots of rain, are very conducive for urea. So you can then split apply your urea, and it doesn't mean that you can't use your CAN or your AN. You use it as well under those circumstances, but you then need to split apply. However, it's also important for you to come in with your foliar fertilizers. Remember, we said the foliar fertilizers, they supplement your top dressing and your basal fertilizers. So these are also the best conditions for you to come in with those foliar fertilizers, because they are then applied onto the target site, basically, which are our leaves, and then you do not have any leaching issues, and your crop will survive and thrive well because you would have supplied those nutrients onto the target site.
Thanks, Dizai. Whilst you're still there, Matanda here says, after using Stellar Star in your green mealies, how long should I wait for me to be able to plant horticultural crops?
It depends on the horticultural crop in particular, but I think the residual period ranges from 6 to 12 months, depending on the particular horticultural crop that is in question. So the follow-up periods, or the residual periods, they are indicated on the Stellar Star label. So it comes back to the principle that I mentioned to do with optimum usage of besides, you need to read and understand the label for you to be able to determine your rotation schemes.
All right, thanks, Tizai. Then this one is for Dio. It says, which variety and Ingarima for green mealies inoita from early March to mid-June?
Okay, for early March to mid-June, you can plant SC 555 or SC 659. Inosvika mid-June zvakanakisa chaizvo.
All right, thanks. Then which is the best variety for green mealies? I'm in Mount Darwin in Chesa area.
Okay, kurisei kuchesa. Well, kuchesa, what you need to understand is nyaya yemvura yenyu kuti yakamira sei. Nyaya yemvura ndo inogona kupa guidance. If you have got a very good permanent water source, I'm sure 727 can do very well, even 659. But if you feel your water source is something that is not moments with the moments that you require, I think it's ideal even to plant SC 555 because it reaches its readiness earlier than 727. Because considering that Mount Darwin could be more drier than other areas, so the times we might be having challenge to do with water. But if there's no challenge to do with water, it can be established like the 727 crop.
Ndinokumbirawo nhamba yemurimisi wekuno kuBeatrice weSidco.
Okay, no, it's fine. So rikati dedzere nhamba yachona kuda vanoona pokunyora, kana vane pokunyora tichadedzera 0772 926 813 0772926813. I think tichava nenguva yatichatumira nhamba dzevarimisi vedu vekuSidco vese vari dotted around Zimbabwe mumaplatforms eagribusiness. Tichataura namukoma Rawlings so that anyone will have access to these numbers. Anyone can call us at any time, whether region ipi, ukwanise kuwana rubatsiro mwaka nenguva, so that tibatsirane titaure tikurukure pertaining how to grow green mealies, how to partner with us in terms of growing ingave masummer crops enyu amungade kurima.
All right, thanks, Dio. Then this one is for Dzidzai. It says, hi, calcium ammonium nitrate inoita here kuisa muchibage stop dressing. I think you covered that, Dzidzai, or maybe you can also cover this one. how do I apply lime? Can andisina a machine to apply or to incorporate it into the in the soil? Can I use ox drone implements?
Okay, yeah. For the first one, yes, you can use your calcium, ammonium nitrate, and stock dressing fertilizer, green mealies, zvakanaka. The second one to do, kana tisina, lime spreader. Tinenge takutoita pfumbu chaiyo. We need to make sure that we put in dust mask aya. Atakamboshandisa time yeCovid, ma-N95 aya to cover our mouths and our noses. Then takutokusha nemaoko. We simply measure our area. If you have been recommended to measure 600, 800 kgs per hectare, you make sure kuti munonge muchingoisa nemaoko. Then you come in with your ox drone implements to incorporate lime ear muvhu. The important thing kuti lime yedu isangane nevhu, and neutralization effect inotanga kuitika nemoisture mvura penenge ichinaya kana patinenge tichidiridzira.
Thanks, Tizai. Okay, this one I think is the last one. We'll take it for Dio. It says, Kuti, I am in Mashingo. What's the best variety for green mealies?
That's fine. For Mashingo green mealies, I would say Shumba is still ideal for you. You can grow S6608. You have many options. It's not limited to one variety. But I would say Shumba yakanaka chaizvo. Yellow maize SC608 or SC659 or SC555. Zvakuenderana neproduction plan yedu kuti tazowinza chii mundima yamuda kudyara. Because some of the varieties might take a bit longer than the other variety because ari maturity range akasiyana. Imwe 5 series, imwe ishumba. So dzinongosiyana kuti imimi plan yenyu muda kuzodyara chii. But those varieties, they do very well. If kana musina plan isinga affecteke, you can still plant your SC727. Inoita zvakanaka zvakare kumasvingo ikoko. Changokosha inyaya yesupply yenyu yemvura. Mvura ndeyakosha uye nekuti muda kuzodyara chii pandima yacho, so that you don't get to affect the next crop you have in line.
Are there any preventative chemicals for fall armyworm?
All right. So basically what we can only prevent are diseases. For insect pests, we cannot prevent. We've got to be vigilant. We have to scout. So there are no chemicals that we can use to prevent. So we usually say you can come in with your chemical control methods once you have seen maybe damage signs of between 10 to 25% in the field. That's when you can then say, let me come in and control. Because sometimes some of these insect pests will not have any economic significance in it, then you just decide not to spray. So you've got to scout and then come. But when it comes to diseases, yes, you can prevent.
The next question for you, Dita, says, when is the best time to apply gypsum or lime?
The best time to apply gypsum or lime is when you prepare your land. Obviously, this has got to be guided by the soil analysis. That then helps you determine the type of lime to use and also the quantum of lime that you should use. So yeah, that should be your guide, your soil analysis. But that is got to be done when the crop is not actively growing, but during land prep.
All right, thanks, Titai. Then this is an interesting one. It says, do we use less fertilizers for green mealies when compared to dry maize?
Again, it depends on what you want to achieve or your nutrient management style. But if it is going to be less, it will not be significant because remember, the same green mealies can then be dried up to get a certain quantity of yield of dried grain. So there will not be meaningful changes or meaningful differences between the two. So you can use the same application rate.
Thanks, Zizai. Does ZFC sell foliar sprays? I think you covered that. Actually, there's a promo you mentioned that is going on. Perhaps you can just maybe retake.
Yes, we do sell quite a number of foliar fertilizers, depending on the crop growth stages. We have a number, but in this case, we are focusing on foliar 15, which we are selling in bulk, to say if you've got your empty containers which you wish to recycle, you can simply come with them and we can sell foliar 15 to you at a much discounted price, and you'll be happy to cut down on your costs.
Thanks again, Zizai. Then this is a follow-up question on foliar sprays. It says, can I solely use foliar fertilizer or I have to combine with synthetic fertilizers? If so, then what's the benefit? Won't it just increase the cost of production?
The honest truth is that if you are going to be using your foliar fertilizers alone, it will be very, very expensive because the leaves and the roots can only take so much per given time before you bend them up. So you'd want to apply little by little by little for you to be able to get a certain quantity of nutrients delivered to your crop. So it then becomes very expensive and uneconomic for you to use foliar fertilizers on their own. But what we recommend is that you use them with your conventional fertilizers, your basal and your top dressing fertilizers. Then you supplement with your foliar fertilizers so that you cut down on your costs and you get that. Then you'll get meaningful yields.
All right. Thanks, Zizai. Then this one says you mentioned something you cautioned farmers on something to do with herbicide application. You said we mustn't apply herbicides when I think they missed that section of your presentation.
All right, it was to do with herbicide. With factors to do with herbicide efficacy. The key one being to do with moisture. We recommend that farmers they apply herbicides when the soil is moist, because it helps in the distribution of herbicide molecules within the soil profile, and also in the uptake of those herbicide molecules when the stomata are open. Because usually when it's too hot, the stomata are closed, and uptake of the herbicides is then a bit of a challenge, because the weeds themselves would want to conserve moisture. And once the soil is too dry, the crop will be in a defensive, the weeds will be in a defensive mode. They would break down the herbicide molecules and they would not work. So basically tungoti kana kune moisture kana kune mwando, masora anenge akaradanuka, anenge akatambanuka, and that's the best time to hammer them.
Then can I use Stellar Star to kill broad-leaved weeds and grasses in a maize field, which is at late vegetative stage?
Certainly you can. You can use Stellar Star to control those, but I must highlight to farmers that Stellar Star does not kill couch grass. That is tangazi. It only suppresses it for a while and then it resumes growth. And for the late vegetative crop, you would want to make sure that when you spray, you are using your knapsack sprayers and targeting the weeds, and the herbicide molecules should not get into the funnel of that particular crop, because what it gets into the funnels of your crop, it then distorts the tasseling process, because there is dicamba, which is a hormonal herbicide, which should not be applied when the maize crop has gone beyond 80 centimeters. So under the circumstances of this farmer, they should not use a boom sprayer, but a knapsack sprayer to target those weeds here.
Is the current armyworm still a threat to farmers targeting green mealies?
Yes, it is. It is. The good news is that there is national surveillance that is going on. Basically, it's a monitoring mechanism that has been undertaken by the government. They have set pheromone traps across the country to monitor the activities of the African armyworm. So once the populations have gone down, I'm sure it will be reported, and we will then be advised on the steps to take. But as it stands, let's be vigilant and let's continue scouting against the African armyworm.
Okay. And the following one is also related to the fall armyworm. It says, what is the difference between the fall armyworm and the African armyworm? And if so, do we use the same chemical solution for both?
Not necessarily the same chemical solutions for both. African armworm is controlled by Cabaril, primarily the cheapest one. But for armworm, you also use, you tend to use the other higher chemistry products. Like I highlighted, your Zerefin, Doxacarb, Clofenapa, Belt, Ampligo, Spike Extra, to control the 4-armworm predominantly. But you can also use the same chemicals to kill the African armyworm. So now the major differences are to do with the numbers. The African armyworm, yeah, they move in a swarm, a big swarm, they move in big numbers, and the damage is quite significant because mashisha ese, they are stripped off, they are laced by the worms. Margin by margin by margin kusvikira shizha rapera. When it comes to the 4-armyworm, inoita maburi on the leaves, but it also targets the funnel pamoyo pechibage ndo panodya 4-armyworm particularly, and it then affects the tasseling process. So basically those are the two differences, the numbers and also the damage signs.
Ndakaspreya maricho so ndapedza kutengesa chibage ndikadyara sugar beans zvinoitawo here. So they're saying they sprayed maricho, and after selling the maize, can they plant sugar bean?
Unfortunately, they can't, because maricho has got a residual period of 24 months. So they've got to come in with maize again on that particular maize field. Yeah, they can't come in again with maize. We mean with sugar beans, but with maize they can.
All right. Thanks, Dzidzai. And just a follow-up question on that one. Is it every herbicide that is a residual effect, or there are selected ones? And if so, maybe for the benefit of farmers, you can name them so that they know.
Okay, there are certain herbicides that have got a residual period. Some of them they don't. For example, if you are to do with your glyphosate, it's photodegradable. By that we mean kuti kana zuva richinge rapisa paya, the sun rays will then degrade the herbicides, and you then tend to have the residues anenge aitwa weak down. So basically, but in some cases, what we have seen through research is that some cells they tend to absorb the herbicide molecules, the glyphosate molecules, so they may be present, but those are very rare cases. Then we also have desiccants like your diquat. Basically, it's a bipyridinium. So once it gets into contact with your wheat seeds, it's done. We also come to your bentazone. Bentazone is also a contact herbicide. It does not have a follow-up period, but you also have your metallaclo, S-metallaclo, depending on the crop. They have got 0 to 3 or 3 to 6 months residual period. Then the longest ones are your atrazines and your maricho that have got that residue. Is because these are triazines. So most of the triazines they then tend to thrive more in the soil, depending again on the soil type.
So as we wrap up, just the parting shots from our presenters. We start off with Dzidzai. Any parting shot for the farmers?
Thank you, farmers, for this opportunity. Let's continuously engage. Tibatsirane tikwanise kuita mari. Mukaita mari tinofara toziva kuti tinenge tichiita mari, so that ukama hwedu huramba huchivandudzika, and we make sure that we take our country to the next level. Thank you.
Thanks, Dzidzai. Then
tinotenda mafarmers nekuti partner with us, tichishanda tese sekutaura kweta Dzidzai kuti nyika iwane kudya kwakakwana. So we are very happy to be working with you and creating a very good agricultural journey as we provide food for the nation. So we are there tibatsirane, isu tiripo pakupa mbeu yakauchikwa zvakanaka, nekupa ruzivo nekubatsirana pamazano ose atingaite panyaya dzekurimwa kwegreen mealies, nyangwe nezvimwe zvirimwa zvingarimwe. So feel free, don't hesitate. Number dzedu dzinowanika 10 report taurire, ngatikurukurei tibatsirane masocial media platforms. Tine maplatforms akasiyana siyana, ngatitaurei, let's engage and see how best we can assist each other, tivandudzane, tibatsirane pakurima kwatinenge tichiita macrops edu. So we thank you for having a good moment with us, tichidiscussa, tichitaura. Feel free anytime to reach out to us. I thank Mkoma Rawlings and agribusiness team for hosting us and giving us a very wonderful platform where we get to discuss with you farmers and to interact with you. I look forward to more sessions where we are going to discuss more other things that concern us and our fields. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dio, for the parting shot. As we wrap up, a huge thank you to our presenters, Dio Pote from SIDCO and Tsidzai Caleb Monotu from ZFC for sharing their expertise. And we also appreciate SIDCO and ZFC for supporting this knowledge sharing initiative. And to all the farmers who have attended today, thank you so much for taking time to invest in your success. But remember, knowledge is only as good as its application. So go and put these lessons into practice. Until next time, I'm Rawlings. Keep growing, keep learning, and see you at our next session.